In a twist that Shakespeare himself might have relished, he is as much America's national poet as Britain's. Here, he is an icon; there, in a crisis, his poetry and plays can become a touchstone. Indeed, in the general woe Shakespeare's words that attended the 2016 U.S. election, it was to Shakespeare that many Americans turned in their distress. When, in the midst of the most vicious presidential campaign in memory, Professor Stephen Greenblatt, best-selling author of Will in the World, published an op-ed piece in the New York Times headlined "Shakespeare Explains the 2016 Election," it went viral. Greenblatt was at once topical, impassioned and provocative. In the early 1590s, he began, Shakespeare sat down to write a play that addressed a problem. How could a great society wind up being governed by a sociopath? After a pointed analysis of Richard III, he closed with this appeal: Shakespeare's words have an uncanny ability to reach out beyond their original time and place and to speak directly to us. We have long looked to him, in times of perplexity and risk, for the most fundamental human truths. So it is now. Do not think it cannot happen, and do not stay silent or waste your vote. Overnight, Greenblatt's article became shared more than 500,000 times. As the U.S. election spiraled beyond expectation, Shakespearean became a consoling shorthand for bewildered American Democrats. It was a buzzword that soon acquired the status of a minor linguistic meme, rooted in an old tradition of New World veneration for Shakespeare's life and work. Having sounded the alarm, and after 2 long years of disruption and dismay, which reached a grim nadir with the forced separation of immigrant families, Greenblatt now addresses the overwhelming question with which we are still grappling: how is it possible for a whole country to fall into the hands of a truly disastrous leader, a sociopath and a demagogue tyrant? Is Greenblatt's answer, a highly entertaining rhetorical exercise tinged with sinister intimations of dread. A lifelong Shakespeare scholar, he has turned to the collected works to construct a grammar of tyranny based on Shakespeare's plays, and some of their most notable monsters, from Richard III to Macbeth by way of Coriolanus, Julius Caesar and King Lear, reflecting on their narcissism, incompetence, cruelty, paranoia, folly and corruption. In general, Shakespeare's villains are more sinister than the clownish, lazy and narcissistic Trump, though no less evil. Greenblatt's method, after Polonius, is sly. He will by indirections find directions out, a nod to Shakespeare, who perfected a strategic obliquity in his narratives of power. For instance, you will look in vain for an outright indictment of Donald J. Trump. Nonetheless, the villainy of the 45th president is implicit in every line of this elegant and measured exploration. Greenblatt's anatomy of power moves from the dishonesties of party politics to the cynical exploitations of populism to the mind of the tyrant, a wonderful analysis of Jack Cade's revolt in Shakespeare's Henry VI, the play famous for "First thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers." In general, Shakespeare's villains are more sinister than the clownish, lazy and narcissistic Trump, though no less evil. Still, Greenblatt is very perceptive about the enablers who sustain a weak and incompetent leader in office. As a Harvard professor and a prominent member of America's liberal elite, Greenblatt is probably too appalled by Trump's insurrection to see the funny side, as depicted, for example, in Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury. He does concede a touch of comedy in the tyrant's rise to power, but doesn't develop this promising line of thought. He closes, wearily, with the admission that, since he first protested in the New York Times, it feels like a century has passed. With so many American Democrats, all he can do is wait for the wheel of history to bring some respite, as it must. Until this nightmare ends, we should be grateful for the reminder that one consoling antidote to Trumpism might be regular visits to Shakespeare plays, which teach, as Edgar puts it in King Lear, that the worst is not, so long as we can say, this is the worst. Tyrant, Shakespeare on Power by Stephen Greenblatt is published by Bodley Head, £16.99. To order a copy for £14.44, go to guardianbookshop.com or call 0330 333 6846. Free UK PP over £10, orders only. Phone orders min PP of £1.99.